City Clerk, former City Commissioner, City of Daytona Beach. The Truth with Gwen, Azama-Edwards on Riot Radio.
Yeah, I just don't.
How you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Hey,
Just having a peachy day.
you know, Big?
Actually, met out there.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Doing okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm not in jail. That's sort of a positive.
That's good. Right here.
I hope you have a nice night.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good day.
Of course you will have a nice time.
Is this something he's not telling you?
No, people always have a nice time on the Truth Radio show. Welcome, 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 welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind, a program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. And as always, to our listeners, we want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community. As always, too, I need you to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com so you can access all of those resource listings that will give you links to all of that information, which will make you what? All powerful. That's right. And we want you to be all powerful. We want you to be in control. That website is www.gwen-truth.com. And on that website, you will get links to municipalities, to state agencies, federal agencies, county agencies, and to advocacy groups. Also, go there so you can take part in the query that we still have going. And you know what? It's kind of 50-50 now. I would have expected something different, but hey, what can I say? It's 50-50 now, pretty much. And it's asking the question, generally, that as to whether or not you guys feel that all the scandals they're talking about, you know, with the listening in and all this kind of stuff, IRS and all of that, are those scandals more important to you than the economy and jobs and health care and all the other things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis? So go to the website, www.gwen-truth.com, so you can chime in on that query. I'm Gwen Azama-Edwards, former City Commissioner, retired City Clerk, City of Daytona Beach, President of AE Enterprises, Inc. And I want to do a shout out to Council on Aging. As you recall, they were the guest on the show last week, and they have received a challenge. And that challenge was for every dollar that you receive in contributions or donations, I will provide you with a dollar match. And they have that challenge, and they need for all of you who love Council on Aging. You know, they do Meals on Wheels, and they do so many things for the seniors. They are the master of major senior service provider in our county. And L. Gail Lemeron did give them this match of $100,000, and for every dollar that is given or donated, he will match it with $1. And we know from the show last week that for every dollar that the Council on Aging receives, they receive anywhere from $6 to $7 through state or federal matching. So if you give $1, then you're really giving something like $7 or $8. And if you give $2, then you're really giving something like $14, $15. Isn't that awesome? Oh gosh, where can you get a deal like that today? You can't. And you're helping others, and you're giving back. So do give to the Council on Aging, and you can go to your phone book, you can Google it, and you will know where they are, and there are any number of ways that you can contribute. So shout out to them, Council on Aging, and to L. Gail Lemeron for his match, $100,000 match. And you have through the end of July, so do it now, and don't even think a whole lot about it. Just know that you're giving, you're helping the seniors in our area, okay? Wonderful, wonderful. Shout out to BCU. They're continuing through the end of June to do a religion program for the community. It's like $20 for the class for the 4 weeks, 1 day a week. and that's awesome. Shout out to Larry Williams, my friend. I call him my campaign son. He had a birthday this month, so shout out to him, and to my niece Stacy, who also had a birthday this month. So shout out to all of our birthday people. And shout out to all fathers. My guest, I know, Jim, I'm sure you're a father, right?
3 times over.
3 times over. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I like my husband too. So shout out to all fathers, my guests and all other fathers. And I say to you, whether you're the biological father or you're the person that ended up voluntarily just taking on that responsibility, and whether you're doing it part-time as a mentor or you're doing it full-time, shout out to all males who are helping to meet the needs of our young people, and especially our males, because they are so badly in need of fathering. So shout out to all of you, and pre-Happy Father's Day, okay? Pre-Happy Father's Day. You guys enjoy, and let us, ladies, let us show some love. I'm sure your wife's going to show you some love.
Here, here.
I love your wife, by the way. She just has such a bubbling personality. I love every time that I'm in her company, as we were for the Freedom Fund banquet for the NAACP in Flagler County. And the person to whom I am speaking is my guest for tonight. And this is the Sheriff of Flagler County, Jim Manfre. His name is actually James Manfre. I was double checking that. I, by the way, love the name James because my father's name was James, and he went by James. Your name is James, but you go by Jim. And, of course, one of the half-brothers for Jesus, his name was James, too. So you're in great company. You know that, don't you?
I need all those prayers.
I'm sure that is the case. Anybody in law enforcement, and shout out to law enforcement as well, because anybody in law enforcement need our support. And we're going to get into some things that we can do to help law enforcement, but share with individuals, because our radio show is heard in Flagler County, by the way, but we're also heard in the east side of Volusia County. And when the weather's good, we're heard in the west side of Volusia County as well. In fact, I drove on Monday, and that was kind of a bad weather day too. Drove to Orlando, and I got beyond the other side of our Orange City, where I'm from, and I could still hear the show going on. So we do have a broadcast, a large broadcast area. So for those who don't know you and aren't familiar, share with them, our listeners, a little bit about your background and who you are.
We have a couple hours, I guess. I was originally born in Brooklyn, New York, with lots of other people. My family moved out to Long Island when I was young.
And by the way, my niece lives in Brooklyn now. She's with the Department of Education, so that's a good area.
It's a great area. For those who know Brooklyn, I was born right across from Old Dodger Stadium.
Oh, wonderful.
In Doctors Hospital. I went to Fordham University in the Bronx, where I met my wife first day of freshman year. And the idea to go to Fordham was to be an FBI agent. I was always very keen on the law enforcement career. And I then went to St. John's University School of Law, and I went to night school. During the day, I worked in the Bronx District Attorney's Office as an investigator and trial preparation assistant in the Major Offense Bureau, dealing with the recidivist criminals, the worst of the worst. And I got a great education in investigation and service to the community. After I graduated from St. John's, I became a prosecutor out of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, which is, for those of you who don't know, is the Hamptons end of Long Island, the eastern end of Long Island. And I did that for 12 years, and after 16 years, I had enough, and my family had enough of a high-profile law enforcement career. I did all the things that I wanted to do. Homicide Bureau and mob investigations, lots of very other interesting things, but it definitely kept me away from my family more than I liked. And I then decided to go into a large law firm and sort of, chill a little bit. My dad was in South Florida. I sort of grew up in two areas. My parents were divorced when I was young. My dad was in South Florida in the Fort Lauderdale area, Tamarack, for those of you who know South Florida.
Mhm.
So I've always spent a lot of time here in Florida, and one day decided to visit a friend who had moved to Flagler County as the head of economic development, and it fell in love with Flagler County. It reminded me of Broward County when I was a young man in the early 70s, without all the high-rises and beautiful beaches and not so many people. And after being in a very congested area of Long Island, I decided this was a better place to grow my family. My family was very young at that point. And so we moved. I developed a development practice and had enough work, and we moved the family in 1999. After spending 3 years developing my business. As the Lord moves you, I had plans not to go return to law enforcement, but we had different plans. My son was on a PAL baseball team with two deputy sheriffs as his coach.
Mhm.
There was a sheriff who'd been there for almost 24 years in Flagler County, who they did not think highly of. I ran for Congress in 1994 against Rick Lazio. For those of you who follow New York politics, he had run against Hillary Clinton when she ran for senator, but he was the congressman at the time in 1994.
Mhm.
So they suggested I run for sheriff, and I said, that's not happening. But after a period of time, they kept on bringing waves of deputies to the ball game. I was watching my son play, and eventually they convinced me to run for the race, and I won that race in 2001, and spent 4 years as sheriff, trying to professionalize the agency. Past 8 years, I've been practicing law with my partner Sid Noel. For those of you who know Flagler politics, he run for judgeship. He's been the attorney for the city of Benel, the city of Beverly.
Yeah, we've had him on the show too when he was running.
He's a great friend.
Great background. Wow. Yeah.
And he was my attorney when I was the sheriff the first time, so we practiced together.
Mhm.
And I won the race this past November, and have been trying to re-professionalize the agency in the past 5 months. And for those of you who have been following Flagler, at the Sheriff's Office, you know we've had some major challenges as I became sheriff, and we're working through those, and we're going to persevere and build a Sheriff's Office that the community can be proud of.
Now, it sounds like, because one of the things I asked for had to do with your mission, now being sheriff, of course, again, but what was your mission? And it sounds like making your office more professional is still a mission from what you had earlier when you were first sheriff, the first time that you ran and you won, and you're still working on doing that then?
Yeah, I think professionalism is what the public should expect
I agree.
for the dollars that they put in, but it's something greater than professionalism. I strongly believe in community-oriented policing. Community-oriented policing means that you engage the community in a community-wide conversation about prevention, not just about arresting people and putting them in jail. Law enforcement is very good at that, but in order for us to really truly be effective and drive down crime, it requires a community-wide commitment. And it also requires a commitment by the sheriff and our deputies to engage the community. And people say, well, that sounds fun, what does that mean? Well, it means this: I have 97,000 people thereabouts in Flagler County. We have 135 deputies. The odds are not good that you can be at every place at every time. But if I can engage the community and convince them that their voice means something, and they can contribute to preventing crime in the neighborhoods, then I've multiplied the force of good in our community.
Absolutely.
So we encourage neighborhood watches. I've been to, I believe, almost 12 neighborhood watch meetings in the 5 months since I've been sheriff. I try to encourage neighbors to care for each other, look out for each other, be concerned about each other, and also make them feel that they are part of this overall crime fighting effort. We have done a lot of advertising to try to engage the community, whether they are public service announcements or advertising in the paper, to let them know what the latest issue that we want them be concerned about based on what we're seeing in the community. If we see, like right now, we're entering into the summer season, where whether you're in Flagler County or any place in Volusia County or any place along the beach, people go on the beaches. Well, unfortunately, the people who want to take your property know that too. And so we're trying to educate the public about when they go to the beaches, make sure you put your personal items out of sight. Most crime is opportunistic. So they're not going to break into every car that they see. They're going to break into cars where they see items of value. So if you have valuables, put them in your trunk. Very simple thing to do. Keep them out of sight, and that's what we're engaging in a marketing effort to get people's awareness about keeping your items out and being victimized. As I always tell people, crime is relatively low in Flagler County. Not because you have a great sheriff, but also because our demographics work for each other. There's statistics in today's news journal about demographics. Almost 50% of our population is 50 and older in Flagler County. So we have an older population. Those are not the people who tend to who commit crimes in our community. However, if you're a victim of a crime, your crime rate is 100%. Doesn't matter what the rest of the community is.
It's personal, relative.
And that's exactly right. So we're trying to engage everyone with not, and you know, our goal is no crime. That's not going to happen. But if I can engage people and make them understand how important it is to look out for each other and tell the sheriff's office. Right now we've run a program out with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement called iWatch. And the iWatch program has benefits on several levels. It's I watch my neighborhood. Look after each other. I watch my community. I watch my country. We're in an age where we cannot ever let down our guard about potential terrorist threats.
That's true.
I don't want to scare people.
But it's real.
But it's real. And it can happen anywhere in any community. People say, well, this is Flagler County. Why would I be concerned here? Well, in 2001, when I was a sheriff, when 9/11 occurred, we got a call from the FBI telling us that they had gotten information that some of the terrorists who had been trained here in Florida to fly planes have been using Flagler County Airport for takeoff and landings. So we had a connection. Not a good connection, but we had a connection. So we all need to be aware of crime in our neighborhoods, and we also need to have a national awareness that each of us, even as we travel to other areas, to keep an eye on possible suspicious activity, whether it's in an airport or in another community or in our own community. So the iWatch program is we're rolling out to try to engage the community in looking out for each other.
How much success are you having as far as the receptiveness by people? Because sometimes people think, I'm not a snitch, I'm not gonna, as opposed to this is my community, this is my country, I'm gonna do what I need to do my part to protect it. And what about the receptiveness on the part of the law enforcement community that you inherited when you were elected?
What I inherited was a very reactive agency, and with law enforcement or any employee of any organization, they want to see leadership. They want to see that their management is engaged. So how do we do that? I've been on a bike patrol. I know Chief Chitwood has pioneered that idea. It's a wonderful idea. Tomorrow night I'll be on a bike patrol. For those in Flagler County, you'll see me traveling up Palm Coast Parkway between 6 and 10 and stop and say hello. We have to show that we are going to be proactive, meaning my upper management and my middle management. I have to work harder than any of my deputies. I'm in the office early, leave late, and work weekends. And that creates a aura that we're here to work. And so we've also become more proactive. And what I hear from the community is that they see more deputies patrolling the streets. They are more courteous because we have, our motto is that we are going to provide customer service. Our citizens are our customers. They pay our salaries, and they should be treated with all the respect that any customer and any business receives. And I think that's working. And what that has resulted in is that crime is going down the past 2 months. First 3 months it went up. Why did it go up? Because we were doing more proactive work. We were making more arrests. The community was engaging, telling us about more things, because they saw that when they gave that kind of information, it was acted upon. And now crime has fallen by almost 10% this past month in property crimes, which is our biggest nemesis in Flagler County, burglaries and larcenies. So there's clearly a result, but we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on working hard and continue to encourage our deputies to be proactive. Someone who's walking their dog or going to the mailbox and driving down the street, stop the car, say hello. That goes so far.
That's true.
When we have neighborhood watches, although people want to meet the sheriff, I'm not that important person at a neighborhood watch. The important person is the zone deputy who actually patrols that neighborhood. When you start getting communication between neighbors and the zone deputy, only good things happen. Neighbors will, and it's fascinating to watch, neighbors will come and say, you know, this has happened, that's happened. And the zone deputy say, I know about that one. And they say, okay, good. But do you know about this one? No, I haven't heard that. And they write it down. So that's the kind of communication I want to foster. And wherever it's been established, community-oriented policing, whether it's New York City, Daytona Beach, or Flagler County, has driven down crime because it's a more unified effort.
I was just going to say that you and the chief from Daytona Beach, Chipwood, must have come out of the same book, because what you were just describing is actually what happens in Daytona Beach too, and you're absolutely right. It is very well received, and people don't like to see that person once they get close to them, and that your commander, whomever that they get close to, start working with and start to trust. They don't like to see that change. You know, if you're a person who will actually take them and you're here for maybe a year and then next year move you around. They hate that change. I experienced a little of that as well. But you are absolutely right. It does work very, very well. Are you finding that, based on your experience in Brooklyn and here, other than the fact that they probably have more crime there, as you stated, there's less crime in Flagler, but I found too, of course you get a professional level of people that are coming down, but there are a lot of people who have moved down from New York to Flagler County. They call it the little New York or something?
6 borough. It's 5 boroughs in New York City, Bank North Coast at 6 borough.
And I'm sure they're kind of used to the policing that they had in the New York area as opposed to here, so you've got that background. You know what they're used to up there. Which, does that make it easier to work with people who have moved from up north to here? The fact that you have, if not a similar mindset, you at least have a similar understanding of how it worked then or there as opposed to here.
I think that this is, community-oriented policing works everywhere. And let me just explain how it does. I mean, does the fact that I'm from New York help me in some situations in dealing with situations in the city of Palm Coast where most Northeasterners reside? Yes. But I went to a community meeting out on the west side. There's an area of our west side called Daytona, New York. It's an area of maybe about 500 or 600 homes, mostly on anywhere from 1 acre to 5 acre plots.
Now, this is the one where the legislator had an issue about water or something he was trying to work through?
Exactly.
Yes, the development.
We created potable water. Actually, my Rotary Club got a grant from the International Rotary. We normally look for potable water or situations where communities don't have potable water, usually in Central America and Africa.
Right.
Here we had a situation in our community. Daytona North is quite removed from the rest of the city of Bunnell, which is the closest area where they have water, public water. So most of them are on, all of them are on well water and septics. So when the economic downturn hit, a lot of these people could no longer afford to pay their electric bill. So therefore they could no longer access their well water.
Wow.
So we found Commissioner or Chairman Nate McLaughlin, who really identified this issue with one of our pastors, Pastor Solano from Grace Church, identified this issue that people literally did not have potable water in our community. So we got this Rotary grant, and we, with the county's assistance, Flagler County assistance, we created a potable water well. So people actually come and get water that otherwise would not have access to.
Wonderful.
So that's how this community effort started out Daytona,
Mm-hmm.
and we identified other issues. There was hunger issues.
Wow.
There were, work issues. There were medical issues, and Chairman McLaughlin and Pastor Solano have done some great work out there. But my point was that they asked me to come out and address the community,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel that because they are sort of isolated from the rest of the community, that they don't get the services and
Right.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
So what we announced was we were creating a substation there. Staff with volunteers, and what we did is we created an agricultural officer, someone who is more in tune with issues that occur in rural communities, and I encourage them to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, community policing works here. We will come out and we will give you the presence that you need, but I also need you to communicate with us about the issues
Right.
that are unique to your specific community.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of community policing works anywhere you put it, in a rural area, suburban area, and an urban area. As I said, it works in New York City, it works in Daytona Beach, it works in a beachfront community, it works in a rural community, because we are social people. A lot of technology has isolated us.
That's true.
I could sit with my iPhone all day and never talk to anyone and communicate.
I do.
And I can communicate around the world, I can communicate with my people.
Yeah.
But it does not give me the sense
Mm-hmm.
of communication, interpersonal
And
communication.
belonging and community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about, is to try, community policing is an effort to connect people
Mm-hmm.
back to our social roots, that we are dependent on each other. That if you're looking to government for all the answers, it's not gonna
Not
happen.
gonna, right.
Government is there to assist, it's not there to, create good communities. That only happens from people recognizing that's important and bringing that to the
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods. We also have a very strong effort with our faith community, which is, to me, just value added. Our chaplaincy program in our inmate facility is very strong. We've also brought that inside to our law enforcement community. A lot of deputies are challenged.
Mm-hmm.
People see that uniform and think,
Oh,
we're men
yeah.
of steel, well, we're not. We have the same social problems that every other, community member has. The economy has affected our deputies just as well. We have not given them raises on almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the 5th year. I'm trying to get them raises this year. So they have economic issues, which causes marital issues, which cause,
Absolutely.
lots of other things. So we brought the chaplaincy program in to try to be a helping hand to people, deputies or that, for that matter, civilians, employees, who are going through some tough times, to try to make sure those problems don't bleed into their work.
Well, I definitely understand the importance of that, since my husband was police chaplain with Daytona Beach for 15 years.
I tell you what.
you.
But we also engaged them in something else that we're very proud of, is that we're in the process of having to build a new inmate facility.
Mhm.
Our inmate facility was built 22 years ago, and our community has grown from about in the low 20s to almost 100,000 people. So clearly, that jail was not designed to accommodate that
Right.
population that's presently in it, and it's overcrowded. So we're in the process of designing a new jail. But we're also in the process of thinking about, well, how do we utilize our old jail?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things we've talked about with the faith community is creating transitional housing, creating work release programs, creating drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs, creating some homeless programs. Tomorrow, I believe at 1 o'clock at the City Hall in Benel, we're going to have a group of people talk about homelessness in our community. Homelessness is also a police
Yes.
affair as well, concern, because homeless people commit crimes.
Yes.
That's the only way they can
Mm-hmm.
exist. It's not the only way, but it's one of the ways they exist. So we've talked about trying to create those kind of programs inside of our, what will then be our abandoned jail, using a faith-based programs to try to keep people from coming back and out of jail. One of the hardest things I do as a sheriff, almost on a daily basis, is, for those who don't know our inmate facility, it's in a very remote location. It's down a long and winding road, in a swamp, and it's almost 2 miles to US 1, along rural roads. And what happens is people bond out or are released, and a lot of them don't have any community contacts. So you'll see them walking pathetically down our roads.
Yeah,
and I have to tell you, it's heartbreaking to see that. Obviously, for some reason, they've gone into our inmate facility, but that doesn't mean that we cannot, have a humane heart about, how we deal with them. And just the other day, last week, we had those tremendous rains, and there's a gentleman walking down, and he was getting soaked, and I picked him up and took him down to the closest gas station in contact, and engaged in conversation. So what brings you to my facility, to my hotel? And the man was in his maybe middle 40s, so it's not a young man. And he said, my life fell apart. I lost my job, lost my family, started doing drugs, narcotics, and I got in trouble. And that's something we can fix. This is not a hardened criminal. Look, our jail should be for people who are hardened. Sexual predators and violent criminals who can repeated crimes need to be in our jails. But there are a lot of other people there that we can reach. And so that's some of the things we're also trying to do with our faith-based communities, try to access programs that we can specifically target those kind of people.
And are they interested and willing to help out in a volunteer basis, so that your manpower, which it sounds like is you're already strapped in that regard, they then would provide some of the volunteer manpower hours, so that and woman power, so that these programs can have some feet to them,
Exactly. That's we only have one really part-time chaplain. The rest of the chaplains are all volunteers, and they do it out of their kindness and generosity. So yes, part of that will be volunteer, and a part of it will be hopefully some program dollars that we can bring to establish these programs that have worked in other communities. There's a program called Genesis that we know works in Orange County, which has reduced recidivism quite dramatically by creating an alternative environment to an inmate facility. And it is a faith-based program that tries to find skills and tries to inculcate them with faith in order to hopefully reinforce them from not returning to a life of crime. I know for some people they may be, well, where's the separation? In these kind of cases, there is a leasing of property, of public-owned property to these groups, and they've turned out to be very effective.
And as you said, because what happens with the homeless and others impacts law enforcement, then that's something that's really just a big plus. It's a win-win for law enforcement and for the community and for the people that they serve.
I think a lot of, and we're having that debate right now in our community. We have a cold weather shelter inside the city of Benel. We don't have a homeless center. So our homeless reside in the woods. The last bike patrol I did, I found those people. They're right inside a community. They're right in front of us, but they're in the woods. And they're on the edges. They're panhandling, or they're stealing, and I've talked to them. And we need to create a facility for them. Now, the issue always for homeless centers is not my neighborhood. Great idea, as long as they're not next to me. So that's why I think we should have a discussion about the inmate facility and also our operations center, which we are in the process of moving out of into a new facility over the next year or two. as well, because the same thing was designed 20 years ago. I'm always spending $110,000 a year on lease space because we just simply don't have any more room inside our facility. So that's another possibility that we can use that place for shelter or transitional housing. And it's in a remote enough area that neighbors will not be concerned.
Well, the NIMBYs, huh?
Right. Or what about property values? So I'm not telling you that's the answer, I'm just telling you it's a point.
Something you're looking at.
Right, something we can start discussing.
Possible solution. Absolutely. Now, we've talked about your outreach efforts and some of the things you're doing in terms of the chaplaincy program and to deal with the homeless and some outreach. In terms of the youth, are there any special programs that you have or that you're looking at to help with the youth? Because one of the other things that will happen this summer, besides people going to the beach, are that the young people will be at home, maybe unsupervised or out in the street, and maybe not have a whole lot to do to keep those busy hands busy in a positive fashion, as opposed to getting into trouble. And we know we were all once young, you know, may have been a while ago, but anyway, we were once young, and we know that that young people do need to be have something productive and really busy work to do, because, and not just for their hands but for their minds as well. Do you have outreach programs, or do you have youth programs that you're working on or working with for the young people?
We are. When I became sheriff the first time, our PAL program pretty much did the basics, maybe football and baseball. And because the city of Palm Coast had just been incorporated, they did not have strong recreational programs at the time. So PAL became really the county recreational program. And what we did is developed basketball programs, programs for people who like to be on horses. We had the posse, we had summer camps. We partnered with the YMCA to create summer camps. We partnered with the school district to create summer camps. So we had programs for our children, and our deputies would participate in those programs. School resource officers who were no longer in the schools during the summer, who had pretty good skills working with kids, would engage in these programs. 8 years later, we're recreating that. That has not been the case over the past 8 years. So we've created what's called the Flagler Sheriff's PAL, and we just partnered with the YMCA to create Dusk with Deputies basketball program at several of our parks. We'll be moving around. We'll start at Ralph Carter Park. It's very inexpensive, and it'll be an opportunity for children to come and be able to engage in activities in a safe environment. Parents will be able to know the deputies will be there watching over them. So we're very excited to partner with the YMCA, which, as you know, has some terrific programs. And as you said, I'll shout out to Teresa Rogers, who's the head of the YMCA.
Yes, Teresa's fantastic.
She's a real force. We'd love to one day see a full-scale Y in our community. My wife and I have been working on that's been a dream of ours for almost a decade, to bring a full-scale Y. Both my wife and I grew up in Ys, and with great
my kids did too, yeah.
Great programs they have. But in the meantime, we will partner with, we've also talked about partnering with the other summer programs if they would like to have deputies come and do some sort of, some sort of talks about safety and bullying and drinking and drugs, anti-drugs. We make them available. So we're at the beginning, but we want to do more as a Flagler Sheriff's PAL to bring unique opportunities. Not every child wants to play a sport. So we're talking about doing partnering with some groups who are doing talent programs. We are trying to think out of the box of how to engage youths in the areas that are fun for them. So we're just starting that over. I'm not telling you we're there by next year. If you have me back, hopefully I'll be able to say that we expanded those programs into all the areas. But I'd love to see us create summer programs to keep kids engaged. And not just during the summer, all year long.
All year round, yeah. Do you have a police athletic program, or not police athletic, police explorers program for young people?
We do. We have an Explorer. We have a very active Explorer program for high school students who have potential interest in law enforcement career. In fact, there's a graduation tonight, which unfortunately I'm missing right now.
Oh, wow.
Shout
out to you guys.
Yes.
Sorry.
When I booked this, they had not put that on my calendar yet, and I told them that I already made a commitment to you, so one of my commanders was there. So
well, thank you for that.
That's okay. When I make a commitment, I keep it. And so I'm very proud to that group of explorers that have been through our program, now graduating, and hopefully going on to get a college education, and then hopefully or a military education, and
wonderful
military service, and then maybe a seat to come back to our community to be law enforcement officers.
How many do you have that are graduating?
I believe it's 8.
Oh, okay.
Is the amount.
All right.
So I think the total is, I think in the 20s, 22, 25. Goes up and down.
Yeah.
People staying.
So what ages or grades are a part of that? You have 8 that are graduating, so
14 to 18 is
okay.
in the program, and what they do is we have a full program that is that one of our deputies oversees. We're fine tuning again because I'm getting in the middle of the program. We want to fine tune it and make it even more relevant and more interesting to attract others to this career.
Wonderful. Well, I need to say you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest is the Flagler County Sheriff, Jim Manfre, and we're talking about the various programs that he has in place or he has plans for to help in their community policing and in their community outreach, and in terms of youth, in terms of homeless, in terms of the community overall, because it really does. You know that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It really does take a village, which is the community, to make things work. And I'm totally in agreement with you that if you don't have buy-in by people in the community in terms of fighting crime, then what you find is that many times law enforcement is just hitting their heads against a stone wall, trying to get this done or get that done, and you see so many things just continually coming around and around and around that give you issues and give you problems. If you have the community involved, you know, they're your eyes and your ears. They, as you said, multiply the those that are part of law enforcement and part of fighting crime. It's just multiplied by those individuals being a part of it. But I need to say this is WLE, which is Goliath Radio, which is BigJohn1380.com. But this is in Ormond Beach, Florida, and we're happy to have all of you listening. Again, Goliath Radio, Big 1380, you know, Big's trying to decide, I guess, which way it's going, but it's Goliath Radio. And this is Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. And again, my guest is Jim Manfre, the Sheriff of Flagler County. It sounds like there is a lot that you actually are either putting into place, you have plans to put into place, things that you see have gone missing or are needed, especially during this day and time. And I think, you know, when you were sheriff a few years back, and now that you're sheriff now, you probably can see that there are some differences in terms of the level of respect that people have for law enforcement, the level of value that they put on things, that sometimes, you know, you question whether or not that should be more valuable than family or than our young people or than, you know, there's a lot of greed stuff that's out there as well. That's something that I guess being a sheriff now that you have to really work to combat, like you're saying. Back when, you know, there's always been this not in my backyard, the NIMBY kind of mindset. But I find that more and more you have two groups. You have groups who understand the problem and want to be a part of the solution, or those who know there's a problem and, hey, it's not my problem, it's not my issue. Are you finding that there are more people who really want to be a part of the solution?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. First of all, you use the word family, and I'm a strong believer in that. My family comes first. My God comes first, then my family. But what we're trying to do is create a family atmosphere inside of our agency. That we are all a family. Families don't always get along with each other, but we all have a common purpose. And it's the same thing with our community. Our community is very young, in that so many people have just recently come to our community.
Right.
We were the fastest growing city for a decade.
Yes.
And so we had a massive amount of people come in. Then we lost a lot of people because of the economy, and had another group come in to replace them. So we're still finding ourselves as a community, and one of the things that I hope to do as a sheriff and community leader is to bring, you know, some identity to our county. A lot of times our county looks at itself as either a beachfront community because that's where I live, or I'm a Palm Coast community because I live in the city, or I'm a rural, city Bunnell resident, or I'm a rural resident. But what we need to establish to really have community is to bring all those disparate parts together and say we're all in this together, we're all in the same community. We may not have all the same lifestyle, and that's okay. We chose a specific lifestyle, but we are all interdependent on each other for our safety, for our recreation, for the beautiful surroundings we have, and to create a sense of community, whether it's religious community, recreational community. We have so many clubs and activities in our community. It's mind-boggling because we have so many seniors, but we need to pull that all together, and not say, I'm Palm Coast, I don't care what happens in Flagler Beach, I don't care what happens on the west side. And that's going to take a while, just because we're so young. And we're truly an immigrant community, we're an emigrant community, because we've come from so many places. And we also are an international community. I use the statistic, there's almost 42 nationalities inside of the schools. And I know that because my children have all gone through local schools. Which is a great thing, because our world is getting smaller. You see so many groups inside of our community, new immigrant groups coming in. In our community, it's Russians and Philippines and Portuguese, and they add a great sense of family life to our community, like every immigrant group before them. But now we have to embrace each other as community members and look out for each other, whether it's homeless people or for recreational opportunities, or to strengthen our schools to make sure that they continue to be world class, and we're producing kids that get to compete in the 21st century. We still have that challenge. I have to be honest with you. I think Ormond Beach and Daytona and DeLand and Port Orange are more mature communities because they've been here longer, and we've had community leaders. Our community leaders arise, almost each year, so we have a little ways to go to.
And all of them still are dealing with the same issues, even though they've been here a while. A lot of those municipalities are dealing with it. And you know what it takes? It takes what you're presenting and putting on the table. It takes the mindset to want to do it first. And then it takes people coming together who join you in wanting to do something and make a positive change. So you're going in the right direction, in my opinion. Because you don't have that in every city that you named, and the fact that you guys do want to do it in your county, in Flagler County, says a lot. It says a lot. Now, before we leave, I do want to make sure, because of the scare about the schools and all of that, and fortunately schools I guess they're out now, right? Flagler County, just like Volusia. So you don't have to deal with that right now, but when schools start again, what is it that the Sheriff's Department has done to make schools safer, or make the parents and help them feel that the schools are safer, in working in conjunction with, of course, your school board?
We have a very strong school resource deputy program. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, and I will tell you, coming into the community originally and having my kids in in the schools. I was a little put off by seeing deputies in the school. That had not been something I had experienced. And then when I became sheriff and understood exactly what they were doing, I got a very heightened sense of an appreciation for what they do. What our school resource deputies do is they are mentors. They are not cops in the school. We don't need cops in the school. If there's an event that the school needed us, we could bring a road deputy in. The idea behind the school resource program is that they create relationships with the students, so that if they hear there's going to be a fight after school, kids will come up and tell you. You know, Deputy Smith, I heard, you know, John and Billy are going to fight. They'll go up to Johnny and Billy and say, hey, I heard about it. Cool, what's going on? If, you know, Johnny's being bullied in the school, right there, he can get on the situation and try to prevent that. They can create anti-bullying, anti-alcohol, anti-drug programs, stranger danger programs inside the schools. There are educators and mentors, and as a last resort, protectors against outsiders who would want to come and do them harm, as we unfortunately saw in Newtown, Sandy Hook Elementary School. I don't want people to be frightened when they send their kids to school. I don't want to be frightened when I send my son to school. So we have worked with the school district to do a security evaluation of all the schools where we can where we need to secure entrances or exits into the school to make them safer. The school has put a few dollars into that. They've identified those issues, and they have been implementing them. Disappointment, we were hoping to put school resource deputies back into our elementary schools, where they were when I was a sheriff the first time, and they were removed. Unfortunately, the referendum that the school board put together failed, so we're going to have to look for other sources of funding to do that. I think it's essential for this program to work, for school resource deputies to be in elementary schools, because I want our children to learn that law enforcement is there to help them, not to just be there when something bad is going on. We hopefully eventually will find those dollars to put elementary school deputies back in. But in the meantime, when we had done, we made national news when a parent donated $10,000 to put school resource deputies in one of our elementary schools. At that point, we realized that we couldn't just do it for one, we had to do it for all. The school district and the sheriff's office cobbled together some dollars, and we had special duty deputies in our schools. And the fascinating thing about that, if I can, and you just cut me off when you have to, because
no, that's good.
I'm a lawyer, I can talk forever. Is that I talked to some of the resource deputies who don't normally work in schools, and they were working on a special duty basis. So you could have a different deputy each and every day. And I was speaking to one, I said, how are things going? I said, how are the children responding to deputies? And he said, it's wonderful. But he says, incredible thing is how the deputies are responding. Because most times when deputies appear at a scene, it's because something bad has happened. But the children would come up to them and hug them, because they're so happy to see them. And they got a sense of what it is to be a deputy. It's not always to deal with the criminal community or the tragedies that occur in the community, but it's also that illumination that only a young child can bring to you by smiling at you. So it really was a great experience for the community, and we hope at some future date to expand the program into elementary schools and create the crime prevention programs and the mentorships that hopefully will keep kids from going down any false paths.
Now, what kind of weaponry do they have? Use tasers in the schools, or?
We do, and there's been a discussion, and I think we've had a pretty full discussion. I will tell you that I did put tasers in the school when I was a sheriff the first time. I brought tasers into the agency. I didn't think they were appropriate in the schools. I was skeptical that we had put them back in. They'd been taken out because it was an incident which resource deputy, or I think actually it was an outside deputy, came in and tased an ESE student, exceptional education student, who was just being, an ESE student.
Right.
And so they had been taken out. Then there was an incident where a deputy was assaulted by a student and they put back in. So I had a conversation with the superintendent and the community about putting the tasers in. And the reason why we're taking them back out, because the community was, I was convinced that, number one, a lot of the threats that were coming were not student to student, but they were coming from parents coming into the school. And then also now when Sandy Hook occurred, I realized that the deputies need to have every tool that they can have to prevent our children from being harmed. But what I also insisted on, I said, okay, I hear you, I see that as a new consideration. But what we also did is we created a new policy on the use of tasers in our school. And it's unique, we created it. I'm not sure any other school district has something similar. But what we said is there another consideration before tasers are used against a student. And that consideration is the age of the student, the size of the student, the mental capability of the student. Those are other considerations I want our deputies to consider before using a taser against another student. And so that satisfied me that we were doing everything we can to make sure that we weren't unnecessarily harming students by using a taser. But the taser also is not there to deal with punishment, and it's not there to be used if there is lethal force being applied to them. If you can deal with it in any other way, either through verbal or through soft force, then we encourage that to be done. What the taser replaces is the baton or pepper spray or those type of non-lethal force. It's somewhere between using physical force, hands-on, and using a weapon. And that's what the taser is effective at doing. And pepper sprays are wildly ineffective. Batons, what they call ASP, it's a weapon that comes out in a snap of the wrist, which is usually some type of metal. It's something that's bound to injure someone if it's used. A taser is something, I'm not telling you it's not painful, but it doesn't hurt the person if they don't have any severe medical condition. So I think tasers are an effective weapon, or it's not a weapon, it's a deterrent, rather than using lethal force or using physical force where the deputy could get hurt. So it may have garnered a bad reputation in some instances because it's been misused for punishment. We've all seen the films where someone was already, being restrained and it was used as punishment. It's never supposed to be used that way, and those who use it that way are misapplied.
Right.
So used correctly, it's an effective deterrent to law enforcement or the person being injured.
As a final question, because this comes up to law enforcement and you look at, different situations, what's going on in DeLand, Sanford and the like, what would you say to the African American community who may have concerns about unfair or unequal treatment on the part of law enforcement? What is your policy in that regard? And I know, everybody would say, well, we treat everybody the same, but, do you have a standing policy so that your law enforcement officers know that you draw the line in certain things?
I think every organization is a reflection of the person who runs that organization. And I can give you platitudes about, that I discourage, or actually that's what I encourage positive relationships with all groups. But if I say it and I don't do it, my
Exactly.
organization's not gonna do it.
Right.
I have been counsel to the NAACP, my agency knows that. My attorney is African American, my HR director is African American. When I was a sheriff the last time, I promoted the first 2 lieutenants to be African American. I spend as much time as I can in the African American community to show them that they're being treated as fairly, and also having an ear towards mistreatment. And this is one of the things that I did the last time that was discontinued under the prior administration, is we have a citizens advisory board. Now the problem is that when people have issues with discrimination or abuse of power among any minority community, they want to know if they're going to make a complaint, it's going to be followed up on. So first of all, if anyone out there is having any issues, you need to call me directly. I answer all calls within the days that I get them, and I follow up on any complaints. What we've done is create a citizens advisory board. It's made up of whites and blacks and Hispanics and West Siders and Palm Coasters and beach people. And a lot of these people I haven't met before, but we advertised and they signed up for it. And what we empower them to do is, first of all, I meet with them on a quarterly basis and say, how am I doing? What's the issues out there? What we also do is we have a link on our website. So if anyone feels that they have been mistreated, rather than that coming to law enforcement, that complaint will go to the Citizen Advisory Board. The person will have an opportunity to speak directly to them. If that board feels that there is validity to the complaint, they will bring it to me, and then I will act upon it. So we have a civilian board which is dealing with those complaints, as opposed to a law enforcement board, which traditionally people feel is not going to be
a little biased.
Responsive.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps as well in assuring the community that I take those kind of complaints seriously, and I do. I have no tolerance for discrimination by any group of people, and I've actively pursued this law enforcement career because of things that I saw when I was younger in terms of law enforcement not always being applying the law equally. So I can assure you, the public, the listening public, and all the public that I take this seriously, and I will work hard to prevent any sort of discrimination by law enforcement.
Now, what's your website?
It is Flagler Sheriff, www.flaglersheriff.com. Very simple.
Yes, it is. Now, anything that we've not covered that you feel that you want the listening audience to know?
Just one feature that we brought to the public is a new Palm Coast precinct. 80% of our population in our county lives in the city of Palm Coast. As I indicated before, our operations center is a very remote location in the city of Bunnell, and it's out of the way. So what we've done is we've created a new Palm Coast precinct. I was the one who established it when I was a sheriff the first time. It was moved over the past 5 years to a very inaccessible location, very small location. We used to have 1,300 square feet, very dismal space. We have now moved that to City Marketplace, which is a central location. It's right across from Walmart and the Lowe's and Belk's Center.
I've seen that.
Exactly where the City Hall is, so it's a central location. We now have, we went from 1,300 square feet to 2,600 square feet of new space. And we pay less money than we did.
Wow.
For 1,300. We're paying $3,200 for 1,300 square feet. We're now paying $2,000 for 2,600 square feet. And we got 4 months free rent, and we got $2,500 a tenant.
Somebody's good at writing contracts and leases.
That is
Little
part of my
legal
strength.
background, yeah.
And then we had the city came in and they did all of the build out just for cost. So it's a wonderful facility. We'd like to encourage our residents in Palm Coast, if they want to come talk to us or ask us questions. A lot of times people have situations in their neighborhood They don't want a deputy car to roll up and tip off a neighbor of their involvement. This is an opportunity to come down and meet with law enforcement face to face. We have Captain Mark Harmon, who's the head of that, Commander Mark Harmon, who's the head of that unit, Sergeant Larry Jones, both with, they have almost 60 years of experience between them, who will take any complaints that you have or give you any kind of information you need. You also could be fingerprinted there. We also have a records clerk there now as well. So if you need to access public records from the sheriff's office, there's a record clerk there. We also have our COPs, and I like to, I love the road shout out to our COPs. They put in a huge amount of hours manning the precinct.
It's your citizens on patrol. Right?
Citizens on patrol, thank you. And they do traffic crash investigations, and they do funeral details, and they do traffic details for special events. They're wonderful people, and we've now given them a really nice office and place to work as well, commensurate with the effort that they bring to the community.
Awesome. Well, time is up. I'm going to ask if you give that website again for people who want to just contact the office. They don't have to be making a complaint, or they want to learn more and get involved and perhaps even volunteer. The website where they can get in contact, or if there's another bit of contact information as well. And again, anything else, and we'll go ahead and close it out for the evening.
And that's www.flaglersheriff.com. It's a brand new website. Hopefully it'll be very convenient and interactive for the public that uses it.
Wonderful.
And thank you for having me on the program.
And thank you. It's been very, very informative. There's a lot about you that I've learned because when you were first sheriff, of course, you and I served on Crime Stoppers at the time. And so I know I've been better informed about some of the things that are going on, and I would hope that that a lot of the things that you have planned will come to fruition. We'll have you back on to see. And I hope too that that you and your wife are successful in getting a Y program there in Flagler, that people will work with you on that.
We will do that, and shout out to Cornelia. Thank you for spoiling me this Father's Day, because she's already told me she's going to do that. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Again, thank you to the Flagler Sheriff, that's Flagler County Sheriff, and that's Jim Manfre, James, but we call him Jim, affectionately Jim, right? This is Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. And guys, I want you truly to stay informed, stay involved, to stand tall for that which is right and truthful. That's what Sheriff Manfre is doing, that's what I'm doing, and that's what prayerfully all of you are doing as well. And again, a shout out to all of the fathers, to Jim Manfre, to all of you, however you find yourself in your fatherhood, shout out to you. And I'm sure the young people, sons and daughters, appreciate you, your wives appreciate you, the community appreciates you, and as long as you're doing something positive in the life of a child, or in the life of a loved one, or in the life of a stranger, just do all that you can to help. Because everything that we do positive comes back to us. What we do negative comes back too, but we want the positive stuff coming back, don't we? It's better to give than to receive. So you guys be blessed. Have a great Father's Day. Have a great weekend. And let's thank God for the rain as well as the sunshine. Be blessed and have a great, great weekend and a great week. And Sheriff, thank you again for coming on. It's been a joy.
Thank you, John.